Hello, this is Ana Rosa Rizo-Centino and
Alejandra Belén Cortes Narváez Lopez.
with Que Madre on KZAA 96.5. So excited you could join us. You get to witness, if you're watching this on YouTube, my crazy bangs. They have reached the awkward length where I can no longer wear them as bangs. And then when I put them to the side, they stick out. But that's okay. Because my worth is not how cute I am.
Amen. But by the way, though, you look so cute though. Like you have like, if you're not, let me describe. She has these really cute like pins or like rose quartz. Like you are glowing, chica. You're looking so good. Sometimes we're really hard on herself. I'm like, that's actually really cute. I thought that was like really your intention to like, because she's got this flare that's like looking like she's just got like wind in her face, like diosa to the max right now, chica.
And thanks to Allie, we are wearing matching abalone earrings.
Twinning.
Cute,
cute. Twinning right here. Absolutely. These come from Oaxaca, from my homeland, from my mom's side of the family. And so when she went there, I asked her, I was like, can you bring some stuff? I just wanted to have stuff. And so like when you asked like, oh, can I have some earrings or, to wear? I was like, this is perfect. I'm like, here you go. It's like, when you have like your sister and you're like, I want to wear the same stuff. Yes. I was like, please have these so we can wear at the same time.
These are our best friend / sister earrings.
Yes. Okay, so some people do bracelets, we do earrings.
I'm sure there will be more to come in the future.
Absolutely. Well, wherever you are right now, we're so grateful that you're listening, that you're tuning in. We appreciate you. And today we have a really interesting topic. Mm-hmm. We're going to be talking about the real reality, the real stories of, overcoming challenges. I feel that when someone's like, oh, I accomplished this, I got to get to do this, they look like they came out from a spa, and I recently, so one of my announcements to everybody, drum roll, that I am officially licensed. I'm officially licensed marriage and family therapist. And for those that, thank you. It's a huge thing, because if you don't know, the journey to become an official, licensed marriage and family therapist is you have to do grad school, right? So off the bat, right, you have to go through that. Then you have to complete 3,000 hours, right, of supervised therapy, which is really helpful, which is great. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I mean, you want to make sure that if you're, working with someone in mental health, like that you're doing it in a way that is very respectful and ethical. And so after you've done 3,000 hours, you have to take a license test. Well, let me tell you about this license test, okay? Because this is, it shook me. It shook me. The license test is the last, carrot. It's the last carrot all the way through the 3,000 hours. Like I have to get to that license test. It's a 4-hour test, and you have 90 seconds to read a whole paragraph, figure out what is the question asking you, what are the clues in the vignette, and then look for, it's a multiple choice, and you have to pick the best answer. So all of them are right, but which one is the best answer? And you have 90 seconds, you have 170 questions, and you have to do it in 4 hours. So for me, the way I could describe it, it's like, how to run, you know how, you can run, but can you run a marathon? So a lot of the testing came into like sitting down and learning how to take this test. So I came out of it, I passed. I was excited. There was a moment at the test center, we're supposed to be really quiet, and the lady hands me, my paper where it says, congratulations. I start crying, and I hug this lady like she's my abuela. We had this moment. She hugs me. She's like, I'm so proud of you. And I'm just like, oh, thank you. I've never met her. It's our first time ever meeting. But she knew that, she was a woman of color. And I think she understood like where I was coming from. Just like there was all these layers, and just like having, the self-doubt that came with it. And so I get out, and I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. And it's been now a week, and I'm still really tired. In fact, I am finally coming to terms that I have acute stress disorder because of it. Wow. So there is some trauma that now I have to go and work on. And so that is my story for this. And we're going to talk more about that. But it feels good, yet I'm still grieving because it cost me a lot of it. And so there's a shift within myself. So, that's why I want to talk to, when Anna's like, well, let's talk about what, your journey. I think many of us can relate to a certain degree of like, wow, like the challenge to accomplish something, there is a cost, and we don't always come out feeling like, oh, look at me glowing in my like beautiful like hair, and I'm like, you know, me siento bien chancluda, you know, and then like,
But
in the
you're
way,
not,
but
you're
I'm not,
beautiful.
thank you, love. See, like, and that's something that's been super helpful, having like that reflection back of like, you're okay, like you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, like you're strong, and it's okay to not be okay. And I've been really grateful about that. So yeah, that's been the journey. I mean, and you, Anna, you've gone through like so many, like when I've, you know, just hearing of your history of being like a mayor and like a leader, like, you know, what are your thoughts about the real challenges and the realities of this?
Well, I just think there's always these tests that are supposed to make us feel like the measure of our worth is set by these things, and specifically standardized testing, right, for folks of color, and how racist a lot of these tests are, and even just like the profession, right? Because I don't know, like I've had therapists, and like you could tell like there's a level of disconnection, right, that they have. And that just trips me out, like, because you know how you hugged that person at the end of your test? Like, I'm a hugger, and I feel like our cultura tends to be like very affectionate. And so usually the way that I demonstrate care is like putting a hand on the shoulder, you know, like touch is a really important sense to show the person that you're connected with, not in a weird, icky way, but just like, you know, like I value you, I'm listening to you. And so it just trips me out how like you have to have that disconnection. And it's probably for the health also, right, of the counselor, because you probably hear so many different things that are difficult for you. But I just wonder if there's something there, right?
That's a really good question. I see what you're saying. And it's something that many therapists who are, you know, very in tune also with bringing in their cultura into the practice will also tell you, like, it has been harmful to go through grad school and a lot of, you know, the ethical, you know, like what are the ethics of working with somebody in that setting? And they tell us you can't touch, you can't, and for many reasons, right? It makes sense. And also it doesn't though, you know, there's kind of that like, touch has shown over and over, and studies have been done that it reduces pain. It's a very impactful way to send a message to the mind and the body fast that you are safe, right? But of course, it has to be the right person. And unfortunately, there have been, you know, in any profession, right? Like people will take advantage of that relationship. And so we do have to go through the ethics, but it is harmful when you're like, for me too, it's like to demonstrate. And if someone is willing to accept that, you know, that kind touch of a hug or like that hand on the shoulder, it is very powerful. It is very, very powerful. But in our training, it has become very cold, where it's like, it's you and the other person. And so we are having now conversations and about decolonizing mental health, because that is also part of the colonization of mental health. Well, mental health has been, you know, the theories have come from Eurocentric methods, and that is, it's very cold. It's, you know, the whole clinical. And I myself have battled that out personally. And I know I'm so grateful now that I have found other, you know, Latino therapists who are saying, I can disclose about myself a little bit because it's going to help that person find themselves, you know, because one of the medicinas for us is storytelling. So it doesn't make sense to sit down. And this is one of the, you know, one of the methods that they say, like, you know, when a client starts crying, just stay there and be with them and be silent. And I just remember learning that. And I'm like, what? You want me to just sit there and watch someone cry? And I don't do that. If you know, when I do my sessions, I want to be there. I want to like show that person that's like, they are safe, you know. But if you're crying alone, that's gonna kick in your fight, flight, and freeze. It's like, I'm alone and I'm crying, and now someone's watching me do this.
Well, because with babies, they always say, always pick up a crying baby. Like, and when you're in therapy, you're kind of dealing with your inner child, right? So it is kind of that baby in you.
Yes.
So, like, how is it okay for you to be like bawling your eyes out and like, crying from your heart about trauma, be it sexual trauma or physical trauma, whatever kind of abuse.
Yeah.
And the person can't even like put a hand on your shoulder to say like, you're safe, you're okay.
And like they do come in with the whole, well, it's because that person needs to learn how to self-regulate.
But they said that about babies too.
Exactly. I've been hearing that about babies. And it's like there's certain, nurseries that you go and they teach them. It's not a nursery, it's a school. And so then you bring in the social emotional learning, and it's like, oh, self-regulation. Well, but if we as adults aren't self-regulating, how do we expect children? We have to teach them that it's okay to we need to tune in. There is an attunement that needs to happen. There needs to be modeling, right? Like our brain is also always scanning for what is safe. And so if there's an adult who's just, not showing any affection, we're just not going to feel safe whatsoever. Yeah. Hi, little queen.
Guest star Gloria.
She did it so majestic. She's just like, I come
She's playing her guitar over there.
Yeah. So, the self is important and the collective is very important too. We need both. It can't just be one or the other. And so, yeah, so that's the self-regulating, and sorry, got lost a little bit in my in my own head.
Yeah, I think I took this on a different direction, but I did really talk about like, I wanted to talk about how this test was affecting you like throughout, because it was a long process, right?
It's a long process. And this is a good time to also talk about like vicarious trauma. The reason it became a long process, and I think un consejo for anybody that's like, I want to be a therapist too. And because it's a beautiful job. I love it. I don't even feel like it's a job. It's like, it's a mission. It's my calling. What happened during this time is that, there was an increase in my cases that were focused around abuse. And so my cases were pretty intense. So I would go and do my job, and I would work with these cases with my clients, and then, go home, sit down for hours and read about cases. And they were, like the test is testing you on these really extreme cases, right? Where it's like, there's been abuse, you're seeing the family. And one of the ways one of the strategies for the test is put yourself in the room with the clients. So I had already done that at work, and now I'm here doing it, mentally.
Oh, wow.
And it was, like, oh, this person is about to die. What are you going to do? This person, just experienced this. What are you going to do? And it goes into like, not full details, but you grasp what is going on for that client. So it was too much. It was too flooding, physically and emotionally and mentally. I'm there in person with, the students that I'm seeing. But then on the flip side, I come and sit down, and my hours of studying, because I'm not studying the content, I'm studying how to take the test, which again, these tests, ridiculous. It created a lot of PTSD in me, like this, like it triggered my own trauma. It, my parasympathetic, like nervous system was not as activated as much as my like sympathetic. So like the sympathetic part of me was like fight, flight, and freeze, survival constantly. So what does that mean? There was a lot of like adrenaline rushing through my body every day for at least like 3 months. And that's not good. You're consistently going through that.
And they don't talk to you about what?
There's no one, and that's another piece that I'm dealing with. I was like, how come no one told me about this? How come no one said, hey, pause? Mentorship is so important. And I feel like I asked around, I asked questions, but no one really told me like, hey, be careful with this. You're going to go into the fire that way. If you try to do this instead, try to work this out. So I had to figure out a lot of things on my own. But, you know, I'll tell you right now, like me and my symptoms, it's like I started having night terrors,
Oh, no.
right? And there's different between night terrors and a nightmare. So so there's a difference between like a nightmare and a night terror. Like a nightmare is like, oh, you know, you're having, there's a theme around it, but a night terror is you wake up from a really extreme, you know, terrorizing dream, and then you have panic attacks, you're unconsolable, right? And so I was starting to, I was there. And you know, throughout the day, my hands get sweaty, the self-doubt is really strong. Like I had worked through a lot in a lot of my therapy, my own work. And it was like I took 10 steps back because old wounds flared up again. And so there's that now that's like present. And I'm grateful for the process. There is also the flip side to trauma, right? That can we make meaning out of this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let another, you know, pre-licensed person go through this. I'm going to like really bring out, I want to be that mentor for somebody. I want to let other people know what to expect and how to adjust their life so that they don't have to come out of it, you know, with your mental health shattered, right? You should love your job. You're doing this for a reason. You should, you know, come out of it and like not only hug that person in the testing room, but then be like, all right, I'm excited, rather than feeling super wounded after, right? I'm also looking at anger again. And I'm seeing, you know, I'm tapping into like readings of Audre Lorde and just being like, this is a tool. How can I use this? How can I channel this in a way that will be more healing for myself? And then, you know, also collectively. So there's that other flip side. I'm learning a lot about myself too, you know. One of the symptoms of trauma that I wasn't like, I knew about it, but I'm really experiencing it again, was the self-loathing. And how to balance the self-loathing of like, well, poor me, but also like, yes, poor you, you know, and also like, okay, let's take it a few steps back and then, you know, climb up little by little. I love it. She's just like, hello. Hi. We all need to be more like Lauren, by the way.
Yes. She teaches me so much.
Yes. So yeah, so there's a lot, you know, there's a lot of layers to it. But the flip side of, you know, this is making meaning out of trauma and naming it, and then I'm learning about myself again. There's some things, and someone said like, Ali, you're crossing a new bridge. And I'm grateful for that. It's a bridge I've been wanting to cross. And when you are presented with a lot of challenges, it makes you go through that bridge. You know, sometimes when things are, you know, they're flowing, or, you know, things are good, but to go back to a bridge that you're supposed to cross, you know, the universe is saying, this is still something you have to face. This is still something you have to go through. So I appreciate that this test and this journey did take me there, because there's a shift within myself that made me connect more to my spirituality too, at a deeper level. I was given an owl feather by an owl, like yes, like just yesterday, you know. And some people are like, oh my God, whatever.
No, owls are messengers.
Yes, they are, you know. And yesterday I felt my spirit realigning, you know. When you go through trauma, they call it also susto, you know, like your spirit left, and now I'm calling it back. And it's a beautiful relationship to call my spirit back intentionally, not by just like, oops, I found it, you know. Like, I think this is the first time that I'm intentionally like praying. It's the first time that I'm intentionally connected to a whole different world with my ancestors. And that's one thing I do appreciate about the trauma too. So yeah, you know, have you gone through something like this? You know, like, I know that I'm sharing this because I want others to know as well, but I want to know, like, what about you, Chica?
Oh yeah. I've gone through other tests, several tests, but I just thought it was interesting because when I first started asking you about doing this show with me, I think it was about 3 months ago. And so I feel like during this process, during different interactions, I have felt like you're going through something but I wasn't too sure like what it was. So now that you're vocalizing it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it was.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's another thing. It's like I realized I swallowed a lot when I should have. One of the questions that I'm asking myself now, it's like, why don't I ask for help? You know, like why don't I communicate? And I think that's the perception of like, oh, after a challenge, you know, like, or when you're going through a challenge, you got this, you know, si se puede. And I had to kind of brush off a lot of the toxic positivity that keeps me from communicating and saying, hey, this is what I'm going through. It's like I kind of like, you know, went into my own silo.
Yeah, I struggle with that term toxic positivity, because I think sometimes the positivity is also just to help you get through something that might be really difficult. So it's not toxic in that example because it's like giving you that little bit of empuje, you know, that little push that you need to get over the hump.
Yes.
And so that's like what I've always felt from you is like the sense of joy. And I see it as joy, like not toxic positivity, but I can see how, you know, for different people, it can manifest in different ways. So, I mean, I don't know which trial or tribulation I can really focus on for this one because I didn't prep, but I mean, my mayoral, when I was mayor of my city, that was a difficult time. You know, the workplace trauma that I've been experiencing over the last year has been a very difficult time. And even though, you know, it has nothing to do with our youth, by the way, or our staff, we have an amazing staff and amazing youth, but other, I'll just leave it at that. Other folks, other adults that have tried to made me question my worth. It's actually made me, go deeper within myself and find that inner strength that I didn't know I had. And I think other people see the strength in me much easier than I see my own strength. So having those people around me to point that out has been really helpful. Because sometimes it's just not there. And that's as a result of different kinds of trauma that I've experienced in my life, that I've told you about, and we can talk about more in another episode. So I don't know. I think, you know, returning to Indigenous ways is a really important and powerful aspect of my life. Like yesterday, for the way I started off my morning is there's a group of mujeres that we do a círculo on a monthly basis. So Luz Maria Espinosa, some of you all may know her. She's very well known and well respected in this whole Central Coast region. Socorro, Lisa Marie, like it's a bunch of just really powerful women. And so yesterday we had our whole discussion based on remedios, like what are remedios that, you know, our folks have always just known, because I think we're taught to always depend on Western medicine, but you know, that's not necessarily the best way all the time. Sometimes we have the answers to our ailments in our gardens, right? Like the hierbabuena, the ruda, like
lemongrass,
manzanilla, like the list goes on. Yes. So we don't have to go sometimes to, I mean, definitely sometimes there are things you need to go to a pharmacy for, but it's not always the case, you know? So just knowing that we have that strength and our ancestors have already pointed the ways for us to heal ourselves. I think has been really important.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yes. You know, talking the reason I was like lemongrass, because once you open that door, you know, it's part of you. It's our revolution right now as guerreras is to claim our health. And that also means claiming the health our ancestors did have, because we know we are constantly depicted the story of like, you know, lacking. Our ancestors didn't have this, they didn't have that, they went through this, yet they also had so much. And especially as mujeres, you know, like I love tapping into the stories of like, as mujeres were the engineers, you know, they were the ones that they were in the crops and they were the ones to look up and start noticing the stars. So they were actually the scientists, you know. And they were the ones that also protected our cultura. They're the ones that, you know, when the colonizers came and went into the temples and wanted to destroy everything, plus the sacred fire, right? That the mujeres came in, they took the fire into their homes. And they kept it alive there. They kept the music there. Like in the homes, that's where they created the safe spaces to practice and to keep and preserve who we are. And so, you know, like, not that I'm biased, but you know, like, mujeres have done so much, and we're such like unsung heroes.
And we never ask for the credit.
Exactly. It's like we just do. We just do. And so I love tapping into that, because it does, for me, that's medicine. You know, like yesterday I learned how to do a limpia with an egg, which when I have very faint memories of my grandma doing it. And I remember being like, the only reason I made fun of it, because I'm going to be honest, is because other people made fun of it. I was little, so I was like, oh yeah, that's silly, right? Yet I remember. Why do I remember? Because my body wouldn't let me forget that little faint memory. It's like, you're not going to forget that because it's significant.
Yeah.
And so it's a cue, it's a clue of like, spirituality in memories and remembering is a technology. And spirituality is a technology that our ancestors used. They're like, they didn't have, you know, social media, they didn't have Instagram, but they were connecting to the hummingbirds. They were connecting to like words, to the songs, to like the wind, to the fire. Like, that's a whole different technology that now we're craving so much because we know it exists and it's real. So like when I was learning about doing the limpia with an egg, you know, I felt my grandma, I felt her, you know, I sensed her, and I even like, there was something special that happened in that moment that I can't even fully describe. Pero it was, I've learned it to, you know, to use the words, the modern words. I'm like, that's technology right there. That's you know, and I felt my spiritu, you know, I felt my spirit again. And that's empowering, because I don't know about you, love. I don't want to speak for you or anybody else, you know, I know, but I mean, if there's books written about this, we're all going through something similar, in that I'm so done with the what they call the just the imposter syndrome, which I don't even like that word.
Yeah.
I don't even like that word.
But I used it before, and I'm like, nope, it's not imposter syndrome. It's racism. It's misogyny. It's sexism.
Yes. Yes.
And the way we're feeling is the design of those systems. Like, they're meant to make us feel this way.
Yes, because so much of this is not built for us, and it's actually really meant to exclude us. And so when we take care of ourselves, when we go through these thresholds, when we, you know, just mere existence, living, that we are guerreras by that, you know, we are so powerful. And it helps. You know, going back to like what therapy teaches us, Eurocentric, it's like, oh, you know, the self. And it really leaves out the whole collective, right? So that again is a sign that, you know, those theories are not meant, and they've stolen things from different indigenous communities and they've made it their own. We'll have a whole episode about that. Maslow's theory. Let's talk about Maslow's theory, where that really came from. The collective is so important, because when you don't have it, someone else can bring it to you, can bring that fire back to you, right? And so we need that. What, you know, like, oh, you know, you don't need external validation. I'm gonna be like, no, we do, because we've gone through so much that we do need someone to come in and turn that fire back up, right?
Well, to be our mirrors.
Yes, exactly. I, for a long time, I had a hard time, like, oh, I need external validation. What's wrong with me? And now it's like, yeah, it's like, think you see that, like, it's okay. It's like, I can breathe, right? Yeah. I can, gosh, this topic is like my jam. So if you could give like un consejo for anybody that's going through a really challenging time and wanting to lift up, you know, what would be a consejo you have for someone's going through a challenge, and a consejo that would be for the challenge and then after the challenge, because we never talk about the after challenge. Oh, the after, you're good, you're set, you're fine. What would be a consejo you have?
Two things. One is having a place in nature that you always go to reconnect to our mother. La Madre Tierra. So for me, it's the beach. If I'm having a really hard time, I'll go to the ocean and just spending time there, watching the waves come in, um, and the salt in the air, like all of it for me is very healing. And then the other part is call someone in your family, you know, if it's not your mom who you're close to, if maybe your dad or a sibling that reminds you of your worth, or a good friend, right? Not all of us have families that are nurturing spaces for us. So if it's a friend that you have claimed as your family, right, your chosen family, call them so that they can hold up a mirror to you and remind you that you are strong, because it's true, sometimes we don't have it within ourselves, but they remind us. And then over time, and also affirmations. I have a list of 5 affirmations that I like favorited on my phone so that, you know, and I actually started reading them with Gloria this morning by coincidence. I didn't even know you were going to ask me this, but every morning to say, it's just affirmations. I see them as reminders of our worth, right? And just kind of training your brain to do positive self-talk instead of negative self-talk, because that negative self-talk can really be harmful.
Absolutely. Oh, those are really. See, I should have reached out to you. Me lo quedo tragada. I just ate my emotions. That's really beautiful. You know, that's really important. And yeah, you're really touching on the, you know, how to like keep recalibrating within yourself while also using the external resources, right? That's how, you know, that's regenerative right there. And thoughts are really important to acknowledge. What are you thinking? We have so many thoughts every day, and honoring them, because many of them do come with a lot of truth and many don't, you know, but it's important to acknowledge which ones are like, this is really my experience. And then you could be like, okay, well, now what can I do about it? And that's really powerful. I think that's the empowerment of like, this is what I'm thinking. This is real. I'm honoring this experience, mind and body and spirit. And these are the resources I have. What can I do? And that's really powerful. I think the consejo that I would have for, I'll, you know, we have the 2 systems. I talked about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, and sympathetic is like fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, which thank God we're finally talking about that one. That's a whole other episode, people pleasing. But the that's like activating, and we need that to survive, you know, to keep going. The parasympathetic one is the one that we really need more actually in these days. We need to activate it does like the rest and digest. So when you're digesting, so you actually process your food. Sometimes when we are having that fight, flight, and freeze, sympathetic is activated, we're not giving time for our body to process the things that it needs to process. So like digestion, and for that to process well and in a healthy manner is slowing down and activating the parasympathetic, you know, and also for resting. So I know that since the pandemic, you know, one of the things that a lot of physicians are seeing, and I just spoke to one yesterday, that they don't know what to do, because they're like, oh, well, a lot of the symptoms are, you know, actually kind of a physiological reaction, you know, and it's based on something like, you know, psychological. So my consejo is slow breaths. So I'm not saying deep breaths, because when people like take a deep breath, it is triggering. Take a deep breath. Like what, you're gonna go dive into a water? like, you know, am I not gonna breathe again? So like, it's just natural now to like, when someone says take a deep breath, it's like, you might actually activate, you know, the sympathetic system. So taking a slow breath is what I would say. That saved me through the test. It is saving me now. It saved me during the training of the test. And it just centers. It just reminds me that I choose to center myself, and that I am enough, and I have all the medicina to like tap into what I need so that I can show up for myself. And that is simply by, you know, and I'll show, it's like, you know, putting your hand on your heart, just noticing where your breath is and not judging it, just being like, wow, my system is breathing, however it is, if it's fast or slow, or you're just noticing like, oh my gosh, I don't even breathe. Right? And it's just like, it's coming back to like, I am human, and there's this whole vehicle that just exists for my mere survival, that's really awesome. So you're bringing back to the positivity, and then just noticing the breath and just letting it slow down. And just noticing where that is. If there's any tension, you know, you're just capturing it. You're like, oh my gosh, there's tension here. And your body's going to thank you for that, because it's like, I really needed to slow down to process, because we don't even, in this, you know, capitalist world, it's like, you know, this hustle culture. It's like, process? We ain't got time to process. Oh, but we have to. It's really to get to know ourselves. So just noticing your breath, and then taking a slow breath in through the nose, and then slowly releasing it. Like Anna said about the ocean, sounding like the ocean, taking a deep breath in through the nose, and slowly releasing it. One more time, in through the nose, and releasing it. Just noticing, letting the medicine kind of seep in. And so we're back to the present moment.
Yeah, thank you. I needed that.
Yeah.
Hope you did too, listeners.
Yeah, listeners, you know, if you're seeing it on YouTube, or if you're listening on your car, or, you know, doing something that, whatever you're doing, 3 breaths. I mean, if you could do a little bit more, you know, but at least a minimum 3, to just tune in and capture the moment. Like, what is happening for me? And just giving yourself some time to process, just like our food needs to process, you know, just like our things in our body need to break down. They need you to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, because it's the balance, you know, and everything's duality, you know. So Ometel.
Yes. Y la catch. You are my other me. Aww.
Well, like,
I feel so much better now.
yes,
Wow.
me too, Chica, me too.
So station identification.
Yes.
You are listening to KZAA 96.5 FM, Madre with Ellie Cortes and Ana Rosa Rizo-Centino. And so excited that you can join us again. What do you want to talk about for the last part?
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, we did a resource, you know, so what we did today was our resourcing. We talked about the challenges, the truth about challenges, not like, you know, these Instagram or influencers were like, oh, look, I'm a millionaire now and it's great. It's like, wonderful. We talked about trauma. So if you're tuning in and you're like, oh man, I missed all that, like, go back. It's okay. We're going to be on YouTube, and you can watch all the episode. You know, how do we end this? That's a great question. It's hard because I don't want to end. I want to keep talking about this. You know, maybe an affirmation. You know, what is your favorite affirmation? Because affirmations are really powerful. Or a story. Like,
I can pull up the affirmations that I mentioned a little bit ago.
So while you do that, I'll finish up with my story about the owl.
Oh yes,
because it's really like
you intrigued me with that, and then you didn't finish it. I'm like, what?
Because I'm waiting right to the end, you know. Okay. Make sure listeners are listening all the way to the end. So again, thank you so much for listening. And so storytelling is really powerful. In December, I believe in manifesting, which we could totally make a whole episode about that. In December, I said I want a feather, but I want it to be given to me or presented to me. So I was really intentional about how I want this feather, and I wanted to make sure it was a feather that I can keep, you know. I wanted to be really respectful. So I took a trip to Panama in December, and I was like, it's got to be here, you know, Panama, like it's gonna, you know, like in my head, creating this, like, it has to be in Panama, and another place is going to be like this. Like, I wasn't letting go of the manifestation. I was really holding on, like, this is how it has to be. And that's not how manifestation works. So December passes by, I didn't get the feather, and I was like, like I did it wrong, you know, like, again, the self-blame, or like I didn't do it right, or I guess. And I remember kind of tuning into like, well, why didn't I get the feather that I wanted? I'm only asking for a feather. And this is where the lesson comes. So 2 days before I take the test, I'm feeling really anxious I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling pain in my body. I've been sitting for hours. Like I'm deteriorating my body, you know, like I'm not moving. I'm not doing the things that heal me, not the things that bring me joy. So I was in a really funky place 2 days before the test, which is not a good thing. And I'm walking where I usually walk. I walk this place all the time. The streets are like, it's my block. I walk around them all the time. And I'm looking down, my hands are sweaty. I see the feather on the ground. I'll just, it wasn't anything magical. It was just like, holy smokes. And I paused. Feather. Yeah. And so I didn't know if it was an owl feather or a hawk feather, but I was like, oh. So I pick it up and I just say, thank you. Thank you, because this is significant. I don't know if I'm allowed to keep this feather or not. I will find out. But thank you. So I call a few friends, I ask around, I inquire, and they're like, homie, you got yourself an owl feather. And I'm like, what? Are you sure? Like, yes.
Message received.
Message received. Yes. So now it is, I took it with me to the test, and it was a really significant message of like, not only are you worthy, but you are knowledgeable. This test is not going to define your knowledge, whether you pass it or not. You are knowledgeable. You come from a lineage. Yeah. Everyone's like, I knew you could do it. I'm like, I really wish I could have felt that. But that's why it helps, the mirroring. Yeah. So that feather to me is everything. And it even opened more doors that I'll share more about in other episodes, but there's some amazing things happening within myself and around me. So yeah, that's my story about the feather. So when you're manifesting, let it go, say what you want, visualize it, but then let it go. It doesn't have to happen a certain way. It's going to happen when it needs to happen. And that feather presented exactly when I needed it the most.
All right. Well, that's beautiful. It's hard to follow that with these affirmations, but I still think they're good.
Oh yeah. Heck yeah. That's let's seal the deal here.
Yes. All right. So positive affirmations to start your day. I will be present in every moment. I am smart. I am kind. I am brave. I am beautiful. And today is a great day. And I read this with my daughter. And so if you have a little one, share it with them. And if you don't have a little one, share it with your fur babies. I'm sure it'll help them too. I have 2 fur babies myself. They're so cute.
They're so cute. I met them today. I just want to hug and squeeze them.
And they loved you too. They wouldn't stop kissing you. It was so cute.
Good vibes all around.
I firmly believe that dogs know if you're a good or bad person.
100%. 100%. Yes. Energy is, yeah. And they feel it. They have senses that we don't have. So I'm totally a believer in that too. Well, thank you. That was medicine. Eso fue medicina. Like all those affirmations, maybe you can send me a screenshot of that. And
I will.
If you want a screenshot too, let us know. We'll reach out to you and send all these affirmations too, because let's share the wealth.
Yes, and please follow us on Instagram. And if there's a topic that you want us to cover on the show, just let us know. We're happy to talk about anything and everything. We are open books. So yeah, we love you so much. Thank you for listening. And until next time, we did talk about a shopping excursion. Yes. So we might share some purchases with you all. Maybe we could do like a quick fashion show. Yes. Who knows? The sky's the limit.
The sky is the limit and only the beginning.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for listening, and we'll be seeing you and talking to you next week.
And you've been listening to Ali Cortes and Ana Rosa Rizo-Centino, que Madre, in partnership with Bienestar Latinx on KZAA 96.5 FM.